How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel for another Star Wars gaming video. And in this video we kind of have some bad news. Now, for those who watched my previous video, or basically just surfed the internet in general over the past week, you will know that there was rumors of a new Star Wars game going into development at Motive Studios. There was a job listing that said that Motive would be hiring for a new Star Wars game going immediately into development, and it turns out that despite how believable it was and how unmistakable posting something like that is, it turns out that it's not true after all, but there is more to all of it. So of course we're going to get into all of that throughout this video, and also EA had their quarterly earnings call with investors, and last time they had an earnings call, EA mentioned that they were doubling down on Star Wars games, and these calls sort of help us gauge what could be going on in future for Star Wars games. So I listened to this entire call and I have a lot of thoughts on it, all of which we will get to today. Now, before we dive into it, let me know down in the comments what you think the next Star Wars game is going to be, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Star Wars games. But anyway, let's get into the video because I have a lot of stuff that I want to talk about today. So obviously the rumors of a new Star Wars game going into immediate development has been doing the rounds of the internet this week, and I think it was fair enough given the leak that occurred. It would take some kind of very careless human error for it to not be true, and well, it turns out that that is exactly what has happened. Motive Montreal's Twitter account did tweet this out recently, setting the record straight. They said, "Due to human error, hey, it happens, we've seen a lot of speculation. While we're not working on a new Star Wars project, we are working on something pretty special. Follow us here or check back for more info on what we're up to." So yeah, that kind of throws a bit of a spanner in the works. They aren't working on a new Star Wars game. And it's fair to say that completely sucks, and in the tone of 2020 gaming news, especially for Star Wars fans, it's just more bad news for Star Wars fans. At this point, it honestly really doesn't surprise me. It just seemed to me like putting Star Wars in a job listing is something you don't really do by mistake. Like, I can't really wrap my head around that personally, but I mean, it is what it is. We kind of just have to deal with it. But I gotta tell you, it does really suck though, because the potential was endless, and this leak, for the sake of the known future for Star Wars games, it really kind of needed to be true. Because I've got to tell you, it's looking pretty lean right now for Star Wars games, at least in the near future. Now that's despite of what Andrew Wilson said months ago in an earnings call for EA. He said that they were going to be doubling down on the Star Wars license. So when these kind of leaks emerge, it's kind of automatic assumption that, yep, this is a part of the doubling down thing. Let's go. Can't wait to see what they do. And then the speculation runs wild. It is kind of disheartening knowing that the future of Star Wars games is so unknown, and then something with potential comes along and then it gets debunked almost immediately because of something like human error. I don't know, it's just kind of frustrating because, I mean, if we want to get like really technical, we have no officially confirmed Star Wars game on the way. Like, yeah, Fallen Order 2 is expected to come, but it hasn't actually had a proper official concrete confirmation yet, so we're kind of flying blind right now. Now, do I think we will see a Fallen Order sequel? Yes, 100%. But they kind of need to get the ball rolling sooner rather than later and come out and say, yes, this game is coming. It's set for a rough release date in 2021, 2022, 2023, whatever. Something just kind of needs to start happening because we're really operating in the realms of the unknown at the moment. Now moving on, and this leads me on to the EA earnings call, which literally happened about 20 minutes ago as of recording this video. So it went for about an hour, and I listened to the entire thing, and by the time it concluded, I was fairly disappointed at the lack of attention on anything Star Wars games. The only real mentions for anything Star Wars games was that Star Wars Squadrons, in their eyes, was a success both critically and financially, and they are happy with how Squadrons went, which is great. But that was literally it. Like I said, I sat through the entire thing and I listened to the same half a dozen subjects over and over. Those being FIFA, Madden, next-gen consoles, mobile games, and details on the new Battlefield game, which is coming holiday 2021, and I will be talking about that later. But yeah, basically nothing on Star Wars games at all, barely even a throwaway line for Squadrons. Now, that concerns me because it's Star Wars. It has the potential to be one of the most valuable IPs in gaming, like period. That is, if it's being fully utilized. It's an IP that everyone would want to have, but it just got skimmed over like it was nothing. Star Wars was literally just relegated to a throwaway line in an earnings call. Like, yeah, Squadron's done good, but that was pretty much it. In the meantime, games like FIFA, Madden, mobile games, and Battlefield were constant talking points. I just found it pretty worrying that something as big as Star Wars games was just completely overlooked in an hour-long earnings call, with Squadrons getting about 15 seconds of spotlight, and that's actually being generous. It was actually probably less. So I don't know what to make of that, to be honest. Like, why wouldn't you flex the Star Wars IP on investors? I know that FIFA and Madden are the money makers, but Star Wars is Star Wars. It sells itself. So it seems kind of weird to me that it would just be sidelined. I think if anything, this proves in the short term at least that there is just not much going on for Star Wars games. Look, honestly, the next earnings call in a few months' time, they could do a complete 180 and talk constantly about Star Wars games. But I did expect to at least hear something, as Star Wars games was about the only thing that was not talked about in this earnings call. Now, having said all of this, it could very well be because, especially with future media, everything Star Wars is always so secretive, it's not funny. And I think this is mainly because of approvals by Lucasfilm. So maybe they have a ton of stuff in the pipeline, but even they can't say anything because Disney. So I mean, you can kind of make of it what you will. I, again, just found it weird that 3 months ago, EA's CEO said that they were going to double down on Star Wars games. And then 3 months later, there was nothing mentioned about Star Wars games when talking about what lies ahead for EA. So yeah, just something to think about and get real confused with, I guess. But like I said, I would not rule out how secretive Disney are with everything Star Wars media, so things could be running a mile a minute behind the scenes. It's just under lock and key and really secretive right now. Who knows? But make sure you let me know what you think in the comments below before I get on to my next point. I really am interested to hear what you guys think about all of this. But now moving on and harkening back to what I said earlier about the new Battlefield game coming holiday 2021. So that was made official in this earnings call and it's been talked about all over Twitter. Now, why would you guys care about Battlefield? You came here for Star Wars. Well, obviously, DICE, the developers behind the last two Battlefront games, are working on Battlefield. And as most of us know by now, Battlefront 2 kind of got cancelled, so DICE could go all hands on deck with Battlefield. So their game is going to be coming out in roughly a year. Now, this naturally sparked a lot of conversation about DICE jumping back into the Battlefront franchise once Battlefield is completed, as you don't really need all hands on deck for post-launch content. I mean, Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5 coexisted just fine. So does that mean all those extra hands at DICE would then dive back into the Battlefront franchise? Well, that seems to be a conclusion that a lot of people are drawing to. It's pretty funny reading all these posts about Battlefield getting its confirmation for its release for holiday 2021. And half the comments are just people either complaining or pleading about Battlefront to come back in some way. Whether that be with Battlefront 2, which is unlikely as hell at this point, or a Battlefront 3, which is also unlikely as hell. That is, unless the extension of the Star Wars license has been given to EA behind closed doors or something thereabouts. And judging by what EA's CEO said 3 months ago about EA and Disney having a great relationship, it's very possible that something is in the works with a license extension. Therefore, it gives EA the freedom to, go ahead and start certain bigger projects. Now, I for one would love to see DICE have another crack at the Battlefront franchise. Those that don't are probably the ones that really don't know better and haven't been following the Battlefront franchise closely for the past 5 years. The developers at DICE, they live and breathe Star Wars, they love it, and you could really tell that being a part of the community. And it was pretty obvious that a lot of the developers at DICE were all devastated when Battlefront 2 came to an end, and they still had so much more that they wanted to bring to the game, but they couldn't because they weren't the ones making the decisions. So it would be great to see them jump back into it in some way, and I really think that they should. Thinking about a Battlefront 3, like, it's just a recipe for success, and I think if EA do secure the Star Wars license beyond 2023, it's just a complete no-brainer that a Battlefront 3 should get the green light. Like, it should be one of the first things that they do the second they get that license extended. And just think, by that time, we'd be deep into next-gen consoles, and the fact that a new Battlefront game would be next-gen could justify its existence in itself. Not to mention the new content that wasn't in previous games, as well as this High Republic thing that Disney are doing. So, you know, I hope for Battlefield fans' sake that they get a great game because, you know, Battlefront 2 was kind of a casualty of that game's development, and I hope it's worth it for them, but I just would love to see DICE make a return to the Battlefront franchise and deliver on that ultimate Star Wars multiplayer game that can last 5+ years of live service. Like, I mean, it is literally just sitting there waiting to be made, and I really hope that EA decide to pull the trigger on a Battlefront 3. But go ahead and let me know all of your thoughts on this in the comments section below. What do you think of EA Motive coming out and saying that they are not working on a Star Wars game? Let me know, and also let me know about all this EA stuff with the earnings call and not really talking about anything to do with Star Wars. And if you did enjoy this video, then be sure to drop a like, as it does help get these videos out there in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you are new for all things Star Wars gaming. But that is going to do it for me today. Thank you all for watching, and have a good one.